Okay, this video is called Psychology and Psychiatry Reading List. A lot of young people are interested in psychology and psychiatry, and I'm just going to let you know, after a lifetime with a lot of experience around psychology and psychiatry, I can tell you psychiatry is a joke. It's the biggest joke in all of medicine. All psychiatric drugs cause brain damage. The patients would be better off if they didn't get them. I wrote a book called Food, Mood, and IQ, which basically rewrites the textbooks of psychology, psychiatry, and neurology. And it's very advanced. So if you really want to learn about those things, you'll find this book helpful. If you only want to watch one video excerpt from it, you can watch my video called Who is the Crazy One? So Who is the Crazy One? You'll find that, I think, very helpful if you care about psychiatry, neuropsychopharmacology, that sort of thing. All right, now let me show you some other books that are quite good. This is the book by Peter Breggin. He's like the best psychiatrist who ever lived. He's a Harvard-trained psychiatrist, and he'll tell you all psychiatric drugs cause a lobotomy. The antipsychotics cause a lobotomy rapidly. The antidepressants and other ones cause a lobotomy gradually, typically. And you can see, a lot of people really don't know that. Look at Jordan Peterson, a pretty smart psychologist, and he still gave himself brain damage and sickness from benzodiazepines. This book right here by Peter Breggin, it's his best book. He wrote a bunch of books, but this is his best one. And he goes through the side effects of drugs, electroshock therapy, and also they used to do lobotomies. Crazy. Anyways, he's a smart guy. This is a very good book. The modern guy, well, I'll get to the modern guy later, Dr. Joseph. He's worth knowing about. This lady, Grace Jackson, too, wrote a very good book called Drug-Induced Dementia. She has one lecture on YouTube you could watch. And she also came to the same conclusion based on reading all the papers on the effects of psychiatric drugs on the brain. They all cause significant brain damage. She went through all these autopsy studies, and it's a good book, and she has a good lecture on it as well. And, what'll also happen, a lot of patients, the patient ges worse, they go, oh, they have a secondary disorder. They put them on another drug. So the poor patients, they really don't have a chance. Every time the patient has a new symptom, they attribute it to a psychiatric illness and put them on another drug until they just destroy the patient. And if you watch my video, like I talked about earlier, Who's the Crazy One, you'll see how that plays out. That's how they really think. They don't know what they're doing. It's a disaster, a disgrace. Okay, here is an Anatomy of an Epidemic by Robert Whitaker, all about, in particular about attention deficit, but other psychiatric conditions as well, and psychiatric drugs. They cause terrible side effects. He's got good YouTube videos as well. Soteria is very interesting. This was Lauren Mosher. He was the head of the NIMH, the National Institute of Mental Health, and he came to the conclusion, wow, schizophrenia patients seem to do better if we don't put them on drugs. So he ran an experiment, a controlled experiment, where he put some patients into these like residential housing just with residential supervisors, but not psychiatrists or psychologists, and other ones treated with the standard conventional drug approaches. And the ones who were treated in this way, basically allowed to have a supervised setting and gradually reintegrate into life, 85% of them were able to eventually hold long-term significant jobs and be married and stuff like that, versus only 15% treated with the drugs were able to come back to what one would consider a normal life. And you think they celebrated him, gave him a Nobel Prize? No, he got fired from the NIMH. He got labeled as being against drugs, and that was the end of his research career. And that's what happens in medicine. If you prove that something works better than drugs, then you're a financial risk, a loss. They want you out. Okay? So that's the famous Lauren Moser. Soteria means deliverance, It's like a Greek word, deliverance from a problem. Okay, The Myth of Mental Illness, Thomas Schaas, psychiatrist back in the 1960s, and he said, to give psychiatric drugs to a child is poisoning, okay? Nobody would give amphetamines to a child if it wasn't for the fact that there's a lot of money to be made from it, and if it wasn't for the fact that the definitions are based on atheistic Darwinism, which says that humans are just talking monkeys. So you don't have any obligation to them. If you have a Christian worldview, you say, man is created in the image of God, and that which you do to the least of my brethren, you do unto me. So, all men are equal in the eyes of God. Humans are part divine as well as part beast. So once you think like a Christian, then, you shouldn't be doing what's wrong to a kid. They give the kid these psychiatric drugs, and then the kid gets worse, and they go, oh, we've unmasked a bipolar. Give him a medicine for that. They turn them into psychiatric pharmaceutical cripples. Chaz is real good. He's real good about pointing out the reality of a situation. Okay, here's a couple of books comparing psychology with psychiatry. And at first glance, people will tell you, oh, psychology is based on science. Yeah, right. It's a joke, okay? For example, a modern psychologist will tell you they don't know the difference between a man and a woman. Every idiot knows the difference between a man and a woman. A man has a Johnson, a woman has a Virginia. A man has, XY chromosome, a woman has XX chromosomes. That's obvious. That's not rocket science. If your dog had puppies and one of them had a Virginia, you'd say that's a girl. If the other one of your puppies had a Johnson, you'd say that's a boy. That's never been open to debate, okay? All of a sudden, that's debatable. And if a psychologist can't tell you the difference between a man and a woman, how are they going to give you relationship advice? In addition, if you listen to the real smart psychologists like Jordan Peterson, who, by the way, is an idiot on psychiatric pharmacology, he went and destroyed his own health with benzodiazepines, and he would tell other patients to go on these psychiatric drugs. So that's a sign of severe ignorance. But he used to say the most valid research in all of psychology by far was IQ research, and nobody will accept it because it's unpopular. And so that's what I think is funny. People think this other research in psychology is good when the best thing they've got is their IQ research, and then people don't believe that. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is psychology is a joke, and all you have to ask yourself, compare Christianity, which is correct about psychology, Christianity, versus psychology. If you ask a Christian, how should we live? He'll say, try to be like Christ and like the saints, the Virgin Mary. If you ask him, what is a good book? He'll tell you, Christmas Carol, Les Miserables, Quo Vadis, Brothers Karamazov, The Scarlet Letter, all that stuff, okay? He can tell you what's a good book, but a psychologist can't tell you what a good book is. A Christian can tell you what is good art. Michelangelo, Raphael, Edmund Layton, okay, John Everett Millay, all this stuff. A psychologist can't tell you what good art is. They can't tell you the difference between modern art and, the great art. Okay, what I'm trying to say is they have no value system. They're just blowing in the wind. Whatever new trend comes along, whatever new pronoun comes along, they accept it. They're told that men and women can't be distinguished from each other. Okay, they go with that, okay? Every guy I know that ever went to a psychologist always said that they were against him. When they went for marriage counseling, always said they were against him and for the wife, okay? They break up families, okay? They destroy the lives of the families and the children. They're not a friend of society. They're like a tool of the establishment to destroy families. That's what they are. Anyways, both of these books compare psychology to Christianity, and Christianity is far, far, far superior. Basically, you take up your cross in life. There's things we have to accept. They're our fate, our personal situation, and you do the best you can with it, That's reality. Now, this lady, too, her name is Kelly Brogan. She's a real pretty lady. She's like half Irish, half Italian, so there's a hot-blooded combination. And she wrote A Mind of Your Own. She's good on psychology and psychiatry knowledge. She doesn't know nutrition that well, in my opinion. I thought this was funny. She was on her website. She has herself doing a pole dance. So can you imagine going to see your beautiful lady psychiatrist and she does a pole dance? I don't think she does that for her patients, but it's a rather stunning sight seeing her do that. Okay, now here's a guy who's real smart. His name is Dr. Joseph. By the way, Brogan, she's really smart. She's a graduate at MIT. Here's Dr. Joseph, and his YouTube channel is just Dr. Joseph, Josef. And he's an expert on tapering people off of psychiatric drugs. He's got a lot of good videos on his YouTube channel about people who have become severely brain injured from smoking marijuana, from taking psychiatric drugs, from taking fluoroquinolone antibiotics. So he was a researcher, too, in neuropsychopharmacology. So he knows a lot about the mechanisms of the drugs, the pathophysiology, if you will. So he's good. I recommend his videos. You go to his YouTube channel. Anyways, if you're interested in learning about psychology and psychiatry, what I've just given you here in this little reading list introduction to these fields, it'll give you the real scoop on them. Hope you found that helpful.